Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 4. I can't believe it's been 4 weeks of this, of Look for the Helpers with your host, yours truly, Nicole Navega, and our co-host, Megan Brady. And today we're so excited to have, I feel like I say this every week, but like our favorite people who are doing the coolest work ever. And so in your bottom right-hand corner, we have Sergeant LaDonna Brady of the Lee County Sheriff's Office waving at us. We also have Chris Arwood from the Lee County Sheriff's Office and Mandy Pryor. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to give you guys a minute to give us a better introduction about what you do, but on the top corner, we have Courtney Blackmer, who is one of our awesome FGCU Bachelor in Social Work students who had her internship over there with those lovely, lovely ladies. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to just do a quick minute about the fact that we put this podcast together because particularly in this time, Megan and I really looked to this Mr. Rogers quote that is about looking for the helpers. And so I always feel compelled to read the quote, which is that Mr. Rogers said, when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would always say to me, look for the helpers. You'll always find people helping. And so we really the purpose of the podcast is to really focus on the folks in the community who are helping and who are the helpers at this time. And so we love Mr. Rogers for that. So if we could take a sort of like a 2-minute intro of, what's your name, what's your title, your rank, what are you doing over there, so that you can give us a little sense of it. And we'll start down in the corner with LaDonna. We'll move through and we'll go up to Courtney.
Awesome. Sergeant LaDonna Brady. I've been with the Sheriff's Office since 2007. Started as a deputy, moved my way up. I made the CERT team at a year in, so I'm a member of the Correctional Emergency Response Team. I've been a canine handler. I've worked on the medical floor. I've been on the shakedown team. I've been a deputy. I became a sergeant in 2012, so I've been a sergeant since then. I worked at night as a sergeant for the Corps building. I worked during the day as a sergeant for the Corps building, and recently, over the last 18, 20 months, I've been in services. So I've handled all budgeting, medical, all contracts, anything that can do with the whole overseeing of the facility in general. Now I am currently a team leader on the CERT team, so I'm the first female team leader to ever make it on our Correctional Emergency Response team.
I love it.
I've been a team leader for 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, so I'm very proud about that. And I'm currently over our re-entry program, as well as our educational services and our inmate programs, and services as well. Awesome,
thank you. Chris, as you go, will you tell us a little bit, just for the folks that don't know, what's the Corps building? What does that mean?
So the Corps building is one of the facilities that the Lee County Sheriff houses inmates in. I've been with the agency since 2005. I'm a civilian. I started out as a clerical staff member, and then I went to college and got my bachelor's from FGCU in criminal justice.
Woohoo!
And then I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling from Hodges University, and I'm pursuing being a licensed mental health counselor right now. So I had worked in evidence for a few years, and then the position for a reentry coordinator came open, and I thought this is really my opportunity to use the knowledge that I've obtained, from my degrees, and try to make a difference in the world. And so I came back to the Corps where most of our inmates are housed, and got to work with Sergeant Brady and Deputy Pryor, who are just fantastic and inspirational women, and I love them.
Awesome, thank you. Deputy, go ahead, finish.
Mandy Pryor. I've been with the Sheriff's Office since 2006. I have a bachelor's in health education and a master's in psychology. I've worked in all of our facilities, jail downtown, the Corps facility here. I worked in classification, so I dealt some with programs and stuff already, interacting with attorneys and stuff. I also did intake, where I received our inmates coming in, and I learned all the processes there. So I've gotten, well versed in the court system and attorneys and everything that stems from that. When reentry opened, I actually wanted to do this a long time ago, but never got the opportunity. So I knew this was my opportunity because a lot of my focus in health education and psychology is a lot with community and mental health and stuff like that. So this is very important to me.
Awesome. Thank you. Courtney, take it away.
All right. I'm Courtney. I just graduated from FGCU with my bachelor's in social work, and I'm working on my master's right now for social work as well. So I actually interned at the Lee County Sheriff's Office. That's kind of how I know everybody. And that was my internship for my bachelor's. So I was up there until just a few weeks ago, and so now I'm just kind of in the middle ground of doing what I can from home and stuff. So
Now you're in the hiring process to come work for us.
That's right. That's so exciting. All right, Megan, you want to go with that icebreaker? You want to do the icebreaker piece?
I already forgot what icebreaker we're doing.
Okay. So, we changed it up a little bit. So each week we've been asking some silly questions and trying to get like a fun response. So this week we're changing it up a little bit. The question is, what was your favorite childhood band or musician? And then who is it today? Who wants to start?
I'll go.
All right, go.
So I'm going to have two for childhood. I'm going to say Prince and Madonna. And then now it's Chris Stapleton.
Ooh, okay, nice.
Oh.
Chris, Mandy, go ahead, Mandy.
Childhood would be Billy Ray Cyrus.
Nice.
As Nicole, I have not steered too far, still within the country realm, but Jennifer Nettles.
Okay, good one. Chris, what about you?
Okay, so as a child, New Kids on the Block, and okay, they were the first concert I went to as an adult, like in my 30s. And now my favorite is Taylor Swift. I really haven't grown much, but I love her so much. I don't care.
I know. I love Taylor too. I love her so, and I've really just started to love her over the past couple of years. I really wasn't paying much attention except for to her commercial stuff, but I am loving her more and more. All right, Courtney, what about you?
As a kid,
Way childhood. We're going like young childhood.
I loved Shania Twain as a kid. She's like one of my favorites, and I still stuck with the country music. I would say two. I love George Strait and probably Luke Combs.
Nice. You know you're in Florida when this is the whole thing. I'm embarrassed to answer this question now that I've heard from all of you. But Megan, now I want to know. Megan, what's yours?
Oh my, I grew up on like Fleetwood Mac and like all the old stuff, and I was like in school dancing around to Stevie Nicks, but I also like, I'll never forget one of my first like albums, the Jay-Z Blueprint album. I was a big fan of Jay-Z and like Destiny's Child. I remember that was another one of my favorites, Beyonce. And like, they're still my favorite, so.
Okay, so it's the same. All right, okay. So I'm going to say that I had a brother who was 4 years older than me, so I'm going to blame my childhood musical tastes on that. And so my very first like total love, I mean, my parents were music lovers, but my first like obsessive band love was Motley Crue. Yeah, Motley Crue. And today, I still love rock and roll though, so my favorite today is Kings of Leon. It's my other obsession, Kings of Leon.
Love
they
them.
have an album soon, so.
Nicole, I'll just have you know, Motley Crue was my first concert as a teenager.
That was my first concert too. My brother slept. Yeah, my brother slept out for tickets, and we had third row, and I was like in the 8th grade. Now I'm telling everybody how old I am, but it was crazy. It was crazy.
Did the drummer spin in the?
Oh yeah, spin it. Yeah, all of it. Yes, Tommy Lee. It was so good. All right. We could talk about that forever. All right. Awesome. I love that. So one of the reasons that I, was Megan and I have been talking a lot about like this, we've make a list of who we've wanted to talk to. And, one of the things that I love about, having met you, LaDonna, and now I'm so excited to know you guys as well. But one of the things that's so interesting to me is that I spent a little time in corrections when I was up north working. So I'm a social worker. And I worked in juvenile detention up in Boston for a little while, a couple of years. And I've been exposed to the adult Rhode Island correction system as well. And so when you think about helpers, not typically people don't think of corrections folks as kind of falling into the helper category. And what I love about what you all are doing is that you are the epitome of the helpers. And it's such a flip on what we normally think about when we think about corrections folks. So I want to make that clear that you guys are really the true helpers out there. And so I want to smash that little stereotype that we have of corrections folks. And I should probably throw in there that you are all female. So, I mean, it might have something to do with that. So we'll talk about that too. But can you talk a little bit about, reentry and what that means and what you do?
Absolutely. I think it all stems from the recidivism. So we have to come up with ways instead of the old adage. Instead of the old adage of lock them up and throw away the key. Is that Leslie with close?
I love this. It's corrections in the wild. We had Steve in the wild.
Instead of locking people up and throwing away the key, we're trying to help them reacclimate to society, figure out where they may have fallen off and help them get back to a place where they, are more comfortable and maybe have a little bit more security.
And that's kind of how we all met too, was through the jail reentry task force that you went ahead and spearheaded, bringing all of these community agencies in the mix and all together in one room to see how we can help in those efforts to reduce that recidivism rate. And it was only then that, like, when we dove into it on Park Royal's end, and we're looking at all of these statistics and, the amount of people that are incarcerated that are struggling with addiction and mental illness. And, it's over 75%. And like of that 75%, there's only 11%, and don't quote me on this, receiving treatment. So, it really is incredible the work that you're doing in and outside of the jail system. I've run into you in so many community events and tours of sober living houses. I mean, you really are omnipresent in the community trying to make a change. So yeah, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that jail reentry task force.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as far as the stigma that we have, we're all mean, we're all abusive, and that's not necessarily the truth. We're all still in our community. We all go home every night from this jail, and we live in the community with these individuals that are getting out of our doors every day. We all could be, at any given time, put behind these bars in a different time of life. We all have done something that we've run a stop sign, or we've done something that we weren't supposed to do. So we could be the opposite person. And so how would you want to be treated? Would you want to be thrown away and locked up the key or not? Now, I will tell you that it takes a special type of person, and the interview process for these positions is very difficult, because especially when I was trying to bring on a certified person, because you have to get the mentality where it's okay to help somebody even though that they're in jail. It's okay to help somebody even if they've broken the law, and the mentality has to be there. It's kind of easier with the social worker aspect of it. That's her calling. That's what she does. But in security, we've always been told, don't be friendly to the inmates. They could take advantage of you. Don't do this. Don't do that. So that was a hard, really, line to not cross. But when I found the right people or the right person initially, Pryor started helping way before she was involved. And we had a couple of interests from outside, and we just decided we were going to get some people together and talk about what needed to be done. It started with 4 people. Megan, as you know the story, it started with 4 of us sitting at a table saying, what can we do? And then we said, well, if anybody's going to make the change, we are. And we kind of took it and ran with it. And we ended the year with 82 people sitting down in that room. And we showed the community that we will make a difference. And this pandemic that's going on now has stopped us a little. People aren't accepting people. We can't have people coming in to do interviews, but we're adapting and overcoming to the changes, and we're making different efforts to make sure that we still help those individuals. And it's all of our passion, I believe. And bringing Courtney on, we've been waiting for that moment. So as soon as she gets on, we'll have another person that's just there and ready to go. And they're really the reentry team. They're really the team. They're the ones that boots are on the ground. They're talking to the inmates. They're making stuff happen. And I couldn't do it without the right people in place. That's for sure. This wouldn't be happening if the right people weren't here, for sure.
So now that you brought up this concept of how difficult it is to kind of break that barrier of you being the helper instead of being a punisher, how do you do it? Like, how do you do it in a culture that is so steeped in that kind of mentality? So what did you do? How did you do it?
I'll let them speak a little bit on it as well, because I think that they both have their own opinions, but I think our opinion is making people understand that we're not giving them anything extra. We're not giving them anything that they don't deserve. We're assuring that if we're helping someone, we're assuring that we're vetting that person, and we're not giving someone a bike that has a car and, a home. That's not what we're doing. We're vetting the people. We're also trying to make other people throughout the facilities understand that if we don't help them now, we're just going to have them back again and have to deal with them. That's the main thing. If we can get them out and keep them out, you complain about them coming in every other week. Well, let us help them. If we help them, they won't come in every other week. That's our goal. And a lot of people have really been engaged in it and understood. They deal with it a little bit more than I do, so I'll let them speak on it.
Well, like Sergeant Brady said, it wasn't as much of a challenge, I think. I mean, when I first started, I had a very different opinion on inmates and corrections. I was very not really, throw away the key, but I was just like, meh, you did something to get in here, so deal with the consequences. But through going to school and getting, criminal justice and then mental health, it's all related. It is so important to encompass everything when you approach everyone and realize everybody's fighting a battle. And as Sergeant Brady said a little earlier, these are the people that you're going to be dealing with on the outside. These are the people that are coming into your homes and they're providing, services for your house. They're, cooks. There's firefighters, police officers, everybody has the opportunity to be on the other side of the bars. So I think through school, it wasn't so hard for me to make the transition just because I was never the person keeping them in check. So that's kind of my view, but Deputy Pryor's a little different, I'm sure.
Yeah, as far as I've spent the last almost 14 years dealing with the care custody control, keeping them in line, follow the rules, but at the same time, respect. And so the care custody and control is very easy on my side. I don't have to be mean. I don't have to punish them because guess what? They, in the end, punish themselves because they actually respect me enough that if I look at them sideways because they did something wrong, they're kicking themselves in the behind because they know they've just disappointed me.
That's right.
But it's definitely not a huge transition. This is something I've kind of always done. They teach us, well, part of our policy is being able to walk around and speaking to the inmates. We're almost like counselors to begin with.
Yeah.
And so moving into this role is really no different. I just get to focus on it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't very difficult. It just felt like an easy transition.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you brought up the word respect, right? So for someone, we use that term so loosely. And when we're talking about inmates respecting you, you know, respect is definitely something that's earned. The definition of respect is to honor and hold in high regard. So if you're having success in the way that inmates are respecting you, that's that means that you're giving them something to honor about you. And like you said, like you've been counselors, you give of yourself to them, and they know that you're trying to help them. And ideally, with that mentality, you know, that respect can be gained and systems can be changed.
But I think that takes, you know, one, and it makes a lot of sense what you said, because since the day that I walked in these doors, I show respect if you show respect.
Yep.
When you take that respect, I take it as well. However, I don't yell, I don't scream unless I need to yell and scream. It's just like I've always said with my son. I'm your mom, but I don't have to mother you unless you make me mother you. Here, I'm your sergeant. I don't have to sergeant you unless you make me sergeant you. I'm just your coworker unless I have to discipline or something. So I take that same mentality back there with me. I think the problem that I found and I got a lot of is me being a CERT team leader, me being on CERT for the last 10 years. We get called in for the worst of the worst. We get called in to go take control of a situation that can't be controlled elsewhere. So that was the thing. They're like, well, so you can go in and do a CERT function here, but then you can go in and give this guy a bike there. Like, it's just little things like that. But I'm still the same person. I'm doing a job either way. I don't change who I am. I don't change my philosophies or my morals. I do the same job with this part, and I do the same job with this part. So it makes it a little bit of an easier transition if you've always done that. If an inmate's come up to me 10 years ago and said, hey, could you look at this for me? Do you think this is right? I would have looked at it and made sure that everything was fine. But some people don't have that philosophy.
At the end of the day, really what I try to tell people, especially those who don't understand, is we are all human. Right. And so we are simply one human being helping another. And it is not only great for us, it's great for them, it's great for the community. It's just helping other people.
I love this, because what you're really saying too is, I mean, one, you know, when you were talking a little bit about your piece, I feel like you're talking about relationships too. In some ways, it's relational, right? It's not when you get respect, and when you said that they kick themselves because I look at them sideways because they know I'm disappointed in them, like that's relational stuff. And then LaDonna, when you talk about you know, this piece of being on the CERT team and going to take control of the situation in one category, and then giving a bike away to a homeless person in another category, it shows exactly what you're saying, Pryor, is that we are human, and that there's complexities and nuances to us, and that it's not this rigid black and white, that there is gray, and that you're able to kind of be fluid in these places where you can look at the gray and assess and determine what you need to do without being what we think of as corrections, which is a robot in some ways, right? Like that's what you think of. It's like, it's this way or it's that way. It's my way or it's the highway, right? And you guys are talking about this complexity of understanding humans and giving humans what they need. And that's amazing. I'm like getting chills just thinking that you guys are doing this for our community. Let's transition to Courtney for a second to get Courtney. And so, because we're talking about reentry, and that's Courtney, where you were doing your internship, and soon to be employed.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what happened, because of course I always hear, for those of you who don't know, I'm actually the FGCU internship coordinator for the social work department. So I always hear all these like awesome things that Courtney's doing, but I want to hear from you about what it was like to kind of come in there and then realize that there was this gap that you filled.
No, for sure. It was, let's see, I started my internship in August, and sorry, I'm losing my voice also. I started my
Cough into
internship
your elbow. Cough into your
I
elbow.
know, in the elbow. Yeah, I started my internship in August, and I was working with Chris. Pryor wasn't on reentry at that time, so I was just with Chris, and I was just kind of helping her with like the 90-day releases and going through inmates and kind of meeting with them and seeing what they needed when they were being released. So whether that was substance abuse programs or homeless shelters or food banks, I mean, really anything, your basic necessities that you would need being released. So that's what I started as. And then for the past few years, I've been really interested in kind of specializing in human trafficking. And just advocating for that population. And so I asked if there was kind of anything really happening with that, whether it was for juveniles or for adults. And so there was definitely a gap in services of, I just know the specific kind of trauma that victims of sex trafficking carry, and that maybe going to a substance abuse program, it would only take care of maybe one of the issues that was going on. And so I just know like the basic few programs here in Fort Myers and in Southwest Florida that specialize in rehabilitating victims of sex trafficking, labor trafficking, everything like that. And so it first kind of started as getting it started. And so we had to kind of start in the research side of things and showing that there could potentially be sex trafficking victims in our jails, serving on charges that maybe are related to the sex trafficking or maybe not related. And so the first step was definitely awareness, and then getting the inmates to kind of reach out and self-identify. And so once that started, we were able to start filling the gaps of getting them into programs and referring to like into the Jordan. They're a local one in Fort Myers, Samaritan Village, they're up in Orlando, created up in Tampa. There's quite a few, just referring inmates and clients and getting them really the central focus of what's going on, because maybe the substance abuse is just a side issue of what's actually happening in their life. So
A numbing technique.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely, and most of them are in on charges like that. And so it was definitely interesting to kind of start seeing things correlate, and kind of seeing the same groups of people. And a lot of the women know each other. And so you had to be really careful in just like where that you were sending them and making sure that they were going to be safe. So that's kind of the basics of, it's kind of a branch off of reentry that was already started and doing great. And so we just kind of used that same format and created it for just a specific population.
And I don't know if you guys wanted to comment on it, but you know, this is one of those things when I think about it from the internship perspective, is that we think like, oh, it'd be so great if all of our interns would do stuff like this. Like it's the perfect opportunity for interns to come in and really, really make a huge difference. Did you guys find that this was a huge difference for you?
Absolutely. When I heard Courtney was coming in as an intern, and I was by myself at the time, I was kind of like dreading it a little bit, just because I was an intern, so I know what it's like. You have lots of questions and etc. And so when she came in, and she was so focused, and she just really helped me so much at a time when I was doing things on my own. And I cannot talk enough about how amazing she is. But then, and her focus was human trafficking, and I knew that. And so it made me sad because I couldn't focus more on what she wanted, because in the internship experience, you want to give them what they need and what they're looking for, and so, she helped me with everything, but then she was doing her human trafficking stuff on the side, and I was like, there really does seem to be a need for it. And so I let her talk it over with the supervisor at the time, in my unit. And, they kind of put some stuff together, and Courtney still helped out, but then she was just off. I mean, just so incredible, the things that she did. And I really can't say enough, because she made the human trafficking program.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's amazing work you did, Courtney. And we know, I mean, I'm a part of the Florida Coalition Against Human Trafficking, and some of those agencies that you just mentioned are absolutely incredible to work with, the work they're doing. And what's that stigma about self-identifying, right? So like we can implement these screening tools in the jails or in institutions, and then we face a whole new barrier of people not wanting to self-identify because of the stigma associated, rather feeling more comfortable identifying with prostitution over human trafficking. So what is that like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the basics of like how they are able to self-identify is a poster. We were able to create a poster that had all of the basic human trafficking signs, and a lot of them were like, has someone ever held your identification, or has someone ever told you to do a job and you felt uncomfortable, or just like kind of your basic human trafficking signs. And then at the bottom of that, we put like a little note of, if you need help or you want to reach out and get resources, like let us know. And so at that point, then they were able to self-identify, like they were able to go through almost a checklist and figure out like, oh my gosh, because I mean, many victims don't even know that that term exists of sex trafficking victim, or they wouldn't even know how to identify as. And so,
or they think it's their boyfriend. They're completely convinced it's their boyfriend.
Yeah. And so once they kind of were able to go through that checklist and kind of identify with whichever ones they had experienced, then they were able to reach out. And I mean, and there's probably many in the jails still that haven't reached out purely out of fear, or just not ready to reach out. But the ones that do reach out, we do consider them self-identifying, because they're at that place where they're either wanting help or they're thinking about wanting help. And so it's a little bit easier to work with a client like that, rather than being able to identify them and then being like, do you want these services? Because maybe they don't even really want them right now.
That's great. And I think I cut LaDonna off earlier. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, for the both of them, you know, I just recently took this over, and Chris was placed in a position, and I always say that when I came into the re-entry, I refocused attention where I thought it needed to be. And we've had re-entry for a long time. However, it's just not gotten to the place where it needed to be. It didn't get to the place for whatever that reason is. And Chris was placed into a position that she was just told, here, get these statistics, try to get people, who's going to recidivate, who are the people that are going to come back. She tried to figure out all these statistics, but not actually helping anyone. So she had to create her own way of helping and getting this stuff information out. And then along comes Courtney, and Courtney comes in and she's like, well, I think there's a need for this. And she had to create her own way. So they're both self-proclaimed. I mean, they both have done this amazing thing. And then you add in, you know, a focus. You say, okay, we're gonna change focus. This is what we're gonna focus on. And you give guidance. You know, I went to a meeting with Courtney, and she's like, man, I wish I would have known that like 3 months ago when I first came in. Like, I didn't know all this stuff. Like,
yeah.
You just have to refocus attentions and refocus the momentum to go in the right direction. And then when you add Pryor to the mix, and she comes in and she has all these ideas and looks at things different than Chris does. So now you have this whole dynamic of people that are driven, have a goal. And
this is a dangerous trio. When people see us walking down the hall together, they are intimidated by us.
I bet. I was intimidated by you right now.
I was telling Nicole when you guys came to the for responding to our first responders event, and the three of you front and center, ready to hear Diana and Steve's story, and it was so cool to see that.
No, we have, you know, and we have a great team. We have a lot of great goals, and the one thing that we do, well, I feel like we do really well, is when I have an idea, I communicate to them, and they have an idea, they communicate to me. So we're able to sit down and say, So our plan for this is we're going to go this route. Our plan for this is and we do it collaboratively. So everyone has an input, because I got a lot of other stuff on my plate. I may not think of something. Pryor may not think of something. Chris, we all have different opinions and different philosophies. And then we're going to add Courtney to the mix. So it's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I'm going to tell you that now.
I know. I'm so excited. And with Courtney being there, we're going to just start pouring in social workers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That would be
Just keep, and then you're going to have like, you guys are going to be, everyone there that's going to be employed is going to be a social worker. I'm
Very good. That honestly would be great.
yeah.
I know.
And know that human connection.
Exactly.
And if you don't mind me bragging about you guys a little bit, because I think if we we would need a whole nother hour to talk about all of the tangible things that you've done for inmates, especially for them leaving. One of the things being ID cards. And I remember that was something that I didn't even think of. I mean, that's something we just take it for granted for. Like I reach in my wallet when I'm pulling into like a gate of somewhere and I have to show my license. Like that's something that I take for granted every day, I guess, because it wasn't until your meetings that I realized that a lot of people don't have that. And there's a lot of barriers to getting that. So can you tell us a little bit about what you did?
Well, it took a little bit of time. I think we focused the reentry task force. I know we said we started with 4, and we started getting some communities, and we focused on three objects that we wanted, or 3 barriers that we wanted to overcome for communities. And that was having identification, having insurance, and housing. So one of the things was ID cards, and we definitely had to get that done. It took about 8 months for us to try to get the whole situation done, but I wasn't going to give up. And we finally got Florida Department of Motor Vehicles on board, and they came with our Flow. It's called Florida Licensing on Wheels. So they actually bring a little van in, they pull up their desk, they open them all up, they have the computers, they have the camera, just like the DMV. And these girls actually go through and they take their 60-day release list, and they go through to see who can afford to pay for it. If they have to pay for it, they go to them and they say, you can pay for this, and we get a check cut out of their canteen. If they're indigent, clearly indigent, where they haven't been getting canteen, no one's putting anything in their money, we will pay for that. Or if they're homeless. If they're homeless and they're clearly homeless, then they get it for free as well. So over the last year, we started, it'll be a year, September 25th was our first one of 2019. We've issued over almost 200 identifications.
Wow.
Now, the flow events have stopped due to the pandemic. However, these girls found a way around that. So I'll let them tell you what they did with that.
Of course they did.
Yeah. Over knew. We totally didn't even think about it because we obviously didn't know this was coming. But we actually went on through our list of people who wanted to get IDs and look for the ones. If you go on Go Renew, you answer all the questions, you can find the ones who can actually get it mailed to them. It's not available for everybody. Maybe you have to go in because you have to update something or you're not real ID or anything, but
yeah, so we've been ordering them online
and getting them mailed to them here at the 14th site, and then we put them in their property. So we have been getting them identifications as well as birth certificates.
And we've actually also reached out to some of our inmates who aren't from down here. I'm working with a guy with a warrant from 05, and he's been living up in like Indiana all this time. And he's down here now with nothing. So actually his mother is going to send his wallet and ID, so when he gets out, he will literally have something he can work with until he can get back home.
We try to be really creative,
Yes.
and follow the rules, but also realize that there's flexibility. And we try really, really hard and do whatever we can for people, and just think outside the box a lot.
Yeah, we actually had a family buy a bus ticket. I corresponded with the mother-in-law, and she sent the bus ticket here, and I was able to put it in the inmate's property. So when she gets out, she got on that bus. We also arranged for a ride for her to get to the bus station. So she actually left the jail, went and picked up clothing at Walmart, went to the bus station, and then she was off back home.
That's amazing.
Wow.
You guys are classic social work case managers. That is what we gotta anoint you guys social work.
I have an honorary degree.
I know your honorary degrees. Well, you know what's weird? Florida has a really weird title protection with social workers that you can't claim that you're a social worker unless you actually have a BSW or an MSW. It's I don't know if it's unique only to Florida, but it is. So I have to be careful when I say anoint you as a social worker in Florida. But you're doing social work stuff, and I love it. So I'm looking at the time. We've got 10 minutes left. And we wanted to talk about recovery pods and your cell dogs. Can you tell us a little bit about both of those things?
Recovery pods. What are you referring? Like for our mental health? Yes. So what we have, actually, the command staff along with Sheriff Martino, they wanted us to come up with something to be less jail-like for individuals who have chronic mental illness. So myself and myself and a social worker that worked here for our well path went up and we toured a facility, we brought back some ideas, and we come up with some different housing scenarios. But we actually opened up a blue room prior to that. And what this is, it's a more calming environment for individuals with chronic mental illness. So instead of them being downstairs in a
Gen Pop.
in a
I watched a lot of Oz when I was a kid.
direct observation area with no rights, no clothing, no decision-making process, so their minds aren't going right. A lot of times, no roommates. We transition them to a housing area, which in your first stage, you get a little bit more decision-making skills. Do you want to take a shower today? Would you like to go to play a card game? Would you like to, a couple different things. And then the next stage of that is going to be, now you're going to be able to make decisions on a little bit more things. Do you want to order hot food off the canteen if you have some money? Do you want to go to the day room so you can watch TV or listen to music? These are things like that. In this area, there is calming music playing at all times. The walls are painted blue. It's just a different persona. The deputies were hand-selected for the first year of who worked up there. They all had to be CIT certified, which most of our deputies, about 85%, we haven't been up to 100 yet just because we can't get them certified with the COVID, but they are CIT certified. So that program is working well. We see that the transition rate of inmates going from direct observation into housing comparative to direct observation to a step-down unit into general pop has increased tremendously. So it's working. They're getting that decision-making process, and it's not just everything done for me.
And again, it's humanizing them at the same time, because when they're down in direct ob, they literally are down there with nothing, no clothing. They have a green smock, and this honestly puts them in that mentality of they almost become like animals in a cage.
Well, but we have to understand, with that being said, that that's for their safety and the safety of the deputies.
Right.
They're given these smocks, and everything's taken away so that they cannot harm themselves or harm others. So it's not them being treated poorly or unfairly. It's the mental state that they're at. They're not able to control their actions, and we can't put them at risk for harm, or we can't put anyone else at risk for harm. But transitioning them and giving them some one-on-one counseling, that's where that comes into play. So it allows them to make decisions. It allows them, and I won't even say too much.
Almost.
Yeah, it just gives them a sense of, I am somebody and I am making this decision and transitioning back. So
I love that. Now, Megan and I were talking earlier about this particular program. Do you know of any other prisons or jails that are doing similar things with recovery pods, or are you guys this innovative?
Here in Florida, there are across the country, yes. Our colonels, our command staff actually went and visited some other sites to get some ideas. So there are other, I'm not sure what the statistics are now in the state of Florida, because everyone's kind of taken that path. Yeah. I know that Miami-Dade has a great facility over there. They have a full circle of treatment facility over there. I'm not sure if they have the same calming blue room. I don't know. but I know that there are facilities that we actually took some information from, and we came back and created this area. So it has been done. It's just not done as much as you would think it needs to be done.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. All right. How about cell dogs? Tell us about your cell dogs.
Goodness, cell dogs is amazing. Puppies. There are lots of puppies. So we have cell dogs. So we take dogs from the Humane Society that would normally not be adoptable or as adoptable, and we put them through a 12-week training program. So we have 2 deputies that are fully certified to train dogs and individuals in the training of the dogs, and we sent them to school, so they're here on their regular scheduled days, and they actually go through the whole 12 weeks. Once the dog is now adoptable at the 12 week, if they graduate, then they're more adoptable because they know all the basic commands. They know how to sit down, stay, heel, walk on a leash, all of those things, potty trained. And we're at 100% adoption rate. We have not had a dog that has graduated through our program that has not been adopted. A lot of the times, the inmates that are their handlers, because they each have a primary and a secondary handler, every dog that we have. And a lot of our inmates actually get their families, and they go through the adoption process prior to them getting out, and they end up keeping the dog.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
That's my favorite.
If a deputy doesn't adopt it first, because a lot of deputies take the dogs too, for sure.
Yeah. Now, how does one of your inmates become a handler? Like, how do you like achieve that status to be trusted that much to become a handler?
You have to go through the inmate worker process. So there's an application process. It's based on your charges because it is a more minimum security. They do walk outside with the dog. They are in sight and sound of an officer at all times. However, they are kind of a little bit, they're able to walk outside of their unit where everyone else wouldn't. So it is based on charges, based on history, and so on and so forth. So they're vetted pretty much just like anyone is for a job interview. And then we keep a primary and a secondary because if the primary gets out, then that secondary is always there. So it cannot work, and you have to be sensitive.
Yeah. And where do the dogs hang out while the process is happening? Do they stay there with you, or do they did?
We have one unit that the dogs are here 24. We have 18 dogs right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 11 little puppies.
Wow.
7 dogs. And we kind of kidnap them every once in a while and make them our office dogs.
Yep.
So, and I remember when I got a chance to go there and see the dogs and kind of learn a little bit more about that program. I almost left with the dog, number one. But it was really cool to hear that you actually utilize it. Whenever you have bad news to give to another inmate that might not be in that program, you allow them to kind of spend some time with the dog as like a therapeutic aspect and give them an opportunity to take the dog for a walk. Is that right?
Well, yeah, kind of, yes. So what happens is me being me, and I'll go get a dog, and I'll know that if a female dorm is having a problem, or if there's a lot of issues going on, and there's a lot of fighting, and the deputy's having a hard time, I'll go get puppies, and I'll bring them into the dorm, and it stops. Everything stops. Now, I did start with our cell dogs, our veterans program. I started up a veterans program about 2 months ago, right before the pandemic hit. And I did start puppy therapy with the veterans, and I can tell you that we did it twice and before this happened. And I've never seen as many tears and laughs in that time that we had that with these grown veterans that really just needed something to calm their spirit. So we are doing puppy therapy with the veterans. That'll be a weekly engagement with them. So.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it so much. I can't wait to come and see the puppies. Can somebody come and train my dog? Because I had to lock him in the bedroom while we did this.
I had to put myself on mute because my dog's ready to go chase an Amazon delivery driver.
Right. We have 1 minute before Megan has to go, and we always end with like another silly question. And Megan's got it for you because it's related to you, LaDonna. Go ahead.
Uh-oh.
I know. Okay, so I love tumblers, and I know I'm gonna throw LaDonna on this spot. So if you don't know, now you know that LaDonna is a special artist. Look, you can give that one to me. That's why, because we have the same last name.
Oh my gosh.
So that is amazing. LaDonna makes these tumblers, and I've been following your page on Facebook, and you are so cool, the free entry. And she just pumps out all these like incredible tumblers with all these different, some have designers, some have sports teams. Like it's so personalized too. And so my question for you, you know, now that we got,
but you have to tell them why we're switching it to this, like what we used to do, so they get the concept.
I know. Okay, so we used to ask you like what your bumper sticker would say. You know, what do you want the world to kind of know about you? What did we not get from you personally from this conversation today that you can kind of share with us in a few words or less? And I guess like my question for you, like this is my tumbler, right? It's a mermaid. You can't see it. It's gonna blend in the background.
I love it.
What would be on your tumbler if LaDonna was to make you a tumbler? What would be on it?
What would be on it?
Glitter and
Glitter.
unicorns. I actually have one. It's on sorry.
She actually has a glitter with unicorns tumbler on it.
Yes, I do.
Pryor.
Quotes. I put quotes on it.
Like
Quotes.
what
like
quote?
like about always be kind.
I love that.
Yeah.
And LaDonna, what about you?
I probably have a picture of my son and my dogs.
Awesome. Courtney?
Yeah, I would say I would have to put my dog on it with like glitter.
With glitter.
That's the cat. Sorry.
No cat. Joey's not on the tumbler, just the dog.
Joey's been relegated to something else.
Yes.
I love it. Well, as usual, we have run out of time and we need to have you back. Can we do this again and talk at length? What I really want to talk about is girl power. That's really what I want to talk about is like you badass females that are out there doing this stuff. So let's do a whole episode on badass females. And thank you so much. We so appreciate everything that you're doing for our community, and we'll talk to you soon. And stay healthy. Stay healthy.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
You know,
Bye.
bye.